What to do, what to do. This is the Brothers on Books podcast where we find great books that will give you real value and actionable steps and have fun in the process. Please reach out to us at brothersonbooks@gmail.com for any book recommendation, or if you would like to be a guest host for a particular book you have in mind. A great review or rating on whichever platform you're listening to would be greatly appreciated. And lastly, if you can think of any friend, family member, or coworker that might like this episode, please pass it along. For the original episodes, the OGs, please visit brothersonbooks.com. I'm Alex Alwa. With me, as always, is my brother Jack Alwa. Jack, how you doing?
Doing great, Al. How's everything going?
It's pretty good. We had a massive cold spell here, as I'm sure the rest of the
Really?
country did, about probably a week ago. Yeah, it was in like the
Oh,
teens.
yeah, a week
Really?
ago.
Did it snow? Al, did it snow?
It snowed a very small amount, but it was very icy like 2 days.
Okay.
But yeah, with that said, we have for the fifth time the GOAT of the guest appearance, Godmother Sharon. Sharon, how are you?
Fine. How are both of you?
Good.
Doing
It's
doing well.
always good times when the Lions are in a conference championship
Isn't
game.
that something? I know. Isn't that exciting?
I was about to say I think they've doubled their playoff wins in my lifetime in the past
Right.
month.
No, I
So
know. I know. Did you you think they're gonna win today?
uh I don't really watch as much football if I used to. If I had to bet my life on it, I would say probably not. Probably less than 50%, but
What does
here's
Dad
the
say? What does your dad say?
I think Dad would probably say about the same thing.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, Jack, what would you say?
I'm hopeful. I've more confidence in golf than I do Purdy. So that's what I'm going with.
Okay. I agree with Jack. I think that it might have a good chance.
Well, hold on.
This
Having a good chance in those are different questions. Yeah, I think they have a good chance. Like I'm
That's
thinking
true.
like a third to 40%.
That's true. You're right. So we
I,
will
th I
see.
think Vegas has them. I think it was it 7 point underdog. I forget, but
Okay.
we're definitely an underdog. But
Okay. Underdogs are good because then they really have to fight hard to
we
make sure
we
that they
know
can
you like
do.
pulling for the underdog, Sharon.
Yes, I do.
I was, wouldn't it be something if both Michigan and the Lions in one year could win the
Isn't that
respective
something?
national
Right,
championship and the Super Bowl? That would be
right.
insane.
That would really be something, right? Right, exactly. Oh,
I guess with that said, Jack, or Sharon, you picked this book. What book are we doing?
we are doing On Tyranny by Timothy Schneider. Where I put the book. Yeah, that's what we're doing. Called 20 Lessons from the 20th Century.
And how did you come across this? What made you want to read this?
Okay, I'll first start by saying that I read this a couple years ago and decided to read it. I wanted us to read it again because I think that's where we're going in the country. That we have to worry about I'm one of these people that feels that we have to worry about our democracy. And this book tells us how the things that dictators, or tyrants, or fascist men do to their country and how we can avoid it.
Hold up, let's be equal here, Sharon. There can be fascist females too.
There can be fascist what?
Females too. Just saying.
You're right. Yes, like Le Pen in France. You're right, and the woman in Italy. I agree. Let's not be sexist about it.
Yeah, exactly. We're equal opportunity here.
Right.
So I guess what were your thoughts, your initial thoughts?
Oh, well, there are certain things that I really could relate to. I mean, there are things that I can see going on, and some of them, and then there were other things that sort of were surprised to me, like for example, chapter 12 I just opened to where it said make eye contact and small talk. That was something interesting that I've never thought of how you can avoid things going so badly, just like that.
Yeah, there were a couple chapters that were sort of about like not becoming isolated and still having I
Right.
guess relationships outside that would I guess weaken the
Hold.
I guess yeah, maybe weaken the state's hold because then chapter 14 is establish a private life as well.
Mhm. Those were interesting ideas and things that we could do. things that we can do.
So here's a question. How do you view like, because it was like trying to build community, making sure you're connecting with people. Like when you view that with like the lockdown, like how do you view like those two together?
Well, okay. How do you view it?
Well, that's kind of what because like I feel like most people that are kind of saying they're afraid of democracy were still for the lockdowns. I don't know.
No, I
No?
think that people who are not for democracy, a lot of them did not like the lockdown. They had no choice, but they were against it.
Mm-hmm.
That's my feeling. They're people that don't want to, in my opinion, that the people who are inclined towards believing in tyrants or fascism, they don't believe the truth. To them, the truth is not important. It's more important what somebody else says. So that's one of the important things that I get from this book, is that truth is not, to them, the truth is not real. It's what somebody else says is real. That's what somebody else says that is real to them. But anyways, what else do you think? I mean, I don't want to just give my opinion because you know me.
I mean, I don't know. Like I didn't really like how I feel like he's treating Trump like Voldemort in this book. Like I don't know if you noticed.
Treating Trump like what?
Voldemort, like in the Harry Potter books, he refuses to use his name, but he's using Biden's name and all these other politicians' name, but he just keeps saying, like, I think he was like the 2016 presidential
election. Yeah.
Or like he refuses to use his name. So I'm like, kind of like, well, why is he afraid to just say Trump's name?
Oh, okay. See, I never read the Harry Potter book, so I don't know what you mean, but I guess maybe he didn't want it to be just a book about Trump, even though he meant it about Trump, but he wanted it to make it more worldwide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. He clearly hated Trump.
I don't know why.
that was essentially my one takeaway from this book. I was like, man, this dude really hates Trump.
Did you think that it's things that you see happening here or not?
I mean, the stuff, so the stuff that really stands out to me is the stuff with language, and somewhat of people trying to stop language, stop, words from being used and how you talk. I mean, he even writes about it, chapter 9, be kind to our language. And I felt like he was talking about I think he brings up 1984 in the book.
Yeah.
Right.
But the things.
1984, like for people that don't, well, we did that episode too, but like they go through how they cut down the vocabulary, like the words in the dictionary, so people they don't have the arsenal of words to express themselves. And that seems to be a key in like either cutting down words or changing definitions. And I mean, we see it so often in like, even like a lot of economic terms. What is a recession these days? What is, the consumer price index? Like all these definitions like slowly get changed and morphed.
Yeah, I mean, like even to start this conversation, I mean, I feel like, Jack, you and I had this conversation probably about a week ago. Sharon, how would you define, I mean, you brought this up in the beginning. How would you define fascist?
I would define fascism as somebody that, as people not care, so a leader not caring about democracy, wanting people to follow them and not following the rules of law, and not allowing people to have differences of opinion, and wanting to take control of the country and be the only one that counts. And whatever he or she would say is what is true. And I see, that's what I see.
Okay, so how would they even go ahead? Yeah.
I was going to say, how would that be different than just like or authoritarian or a dictator?
I don't think that's any different. I think they're all the same.
Okay, so like my belief was that in fascism you had to have a strong national, like everything had to be done for the goal of the country. Like it had to have a strong national sense behind it. Where authoritarian would be more just like a dictator, where you're doing, essentially it's just you're doing what you want to do.
I think you're right. I think I'm using the wrong words, which I'm always accused of doing. But I think that I use the wrong words, and it isn't. It's more authoritarian and a dictator. I agree with you.
And how do we define even democracy?
Well, democracy is number one, following rules of law, allowing people having different points of view, allowing everybody to wants to participate, to not believe that one person is in charge of the whole country, and we have to go by everything. In this case, he says.
I mean, but did that happen? Like, did you think that like we were just doing what Trump wanted?
Well, there's too many. No, I don't. But you see how many people believe whatever Trump says. It's what, 35%, 40% of Republicans think that the election was stolen. People think that Trump did a great job as president. People think that and they also the antagonism towards other people when he makes fun of people, or when he says immigrants are nasty and they're rapists and they're drug dealers. People believe that. So yes, I do. I think that he's trying to and he's trying to get us to that point where only what he believes is what's gonna be important in the country. And somebody like me, of course I'm too old, but somebody like me will be, not listened to, maybe sent to jail, not allowed to have my own personal freedoms. That's what I think. And I'm, plus, that don't express myself as well as I should, but that's as well as I can tell you. But I believe this, but it's not, I probably am not explaining it well enough for both of you.
So I guess just to sort of, I guess, cut to the point here. So you're afraid of a sort of a right-leaning authoritarian coming into power. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. So just me personally, I think most of the issues would become from a sort of a left-leaning, very progressive movement that would cause a censorship of speech. And that's where I think a lot of, just from a social standing in our society, a lot of the problems are coming from changing of social norms. And that's where I think a lot of the truth is being sort of muddled.
What do you mean? I don't understand.
Like a lot of these, like the trans movement, I think, the view that trans women are women propagates pretty far out in the internet. Like, I'm guessing you probably don't spend a lot of time on the internet. Is that correct, Sharon?
That is correct.
Okay, so would you say a trans woman is a woman?
A trans woman is no longer a woman if she decides that she was really born a man.
No, so a trans woman is someone that was born a man and transitioned into a woman.
Right. So she's okay. So yeah, no, then she is a woman then. Right. Because she feels that she was not born she wasn't born a woman. She was born really as a man, or she doesn't feel like a woman. So that's why she's transed into a woman, transisted whatever.
So is a trans woman a woman? Like, would you say a trans woman is equal to a woman if we're just doing this like through a logical, rationale type of?
I do.
Well, what about for sports?
Yeah.
I think probably I believe that women should, be able to participate in those sports for women. For women, just like men who are trans should be very able to participate as men. They are what they are. They feel that they're men and they feel that they're women.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but I guess just because you feel like you're a woman does not mean, like, this is what I was talking about with like truth. That takes away from the fact that you can, like, Jack and I could decide we feel like women, but that wouldn't change the fact that if we went and competed in soccer against biological women, we would on average be about, probably 6 to 7 inches taller, we'd be faster, we'd be stronger, we'd probably weigh about 80 pounds more than them. And, if we were 20 and could still run, we'd just dominate. Like that doesn't change that fact. Even if we feel like women, we're still biological men.
I see what you're saying. Honestly, just out of my head, I'd say, okay, I don't necessarily agree with you, but I have to admit that that part of it I never really think about that one way or the other. I just think about the fact that people decide what they are, and it doesn't matter what other people think, and they should not be discriminated against or not have the same laws that protect them as other people. I know two young women that are like in high school, and they both decided that they wanted to be, that they're not women anymore. They changed their name. They're not women, they're girls. Anyways, they changed their name. That's how everybody has to address them now. And I'm not sure if they've really decided if they're men or not. They could be between. It could be, I don't know, anyway. But anyway, but that's their decision. And it's not our decision to say, oh, well, you're not, so you can't do this, or you're not, so you can't do that. That I just don't believe that it's anybody else's. There's no other reason to think that anybody else should be telling people what to do. That's how I think.
But
I guess
that's what laws are. Laws tell people what to do.
Yes, laws tell people what to do, but laws should not be there to discriminate against some. Like, it's okay for me to do something, but it's not okay for you to do something.
Mhm.
Like there used to be laws, and there still are, that homosexuality is bad. There also were laws until the 1960s that if you were Caucasian, you can't marry somebody black, African American. So those are laws that were there, but that didn't necessarily mean they were right laws.
Sure, I agree with that.
But I guess when if a bunch of guys just transitioned to females and then played in all the female sports, all those girls wouldn't have jobs. But like, I always think back to the women's national soccer team. They keep complaining about what they're getting paid. But if you just bundled everyone into one league, regardless of gender or sex, it would be all the males at the top. Like there would be no females playing. So I guess, I mean, I'm cool, like just having one league for everyone, but I just don't want to hear people complaining that, because there was a man that transitioned to a female and then won the collegiate swimming for a couple of the events.
Thomas.
Yeah. What's that?
Leah Thomas.
So, I mean, and that girl is taking a scholarship from one, someone that was born a biological girl.
Woman, right.
Okay.
So I guess it's like I'm for people doing whatever they want, but like you can't complain on the other side that, now I feel like a woman, I'm gonna participate in, women's soccer, women's swimming. Or like, I mean, what about like me saying like, oh, I feel kind of old. Can I go get the senior discount? Like, who are you to tell me like I can't have this discount?
Oh, there is
I feel old.
There is it. Okay, I hear what both of you are saying, and what you say makes sense to me, but I'm not sure how I feel about it. Okay, That's not something that because I'm not a sports person, I don't really think about that. I think about the other aspects of it.
I guess my point is like I don't have a problem with you doing whatever you want to do, but sometimes how you, regardless of what we think or not, sometimes what you as a person does influence other people. So like as long as like your decisions only impact yourself, go wild. I don't care what you do. But when you start impacting others, like I think you have to take that into account. And like there should be essentially, restrictions placed if you're negatively impacting others.
Well, what if somebody doesn't, forgetting sports, what if somebody doesn't like the idea that somebody comes into that looks like a man and they were born a woman, and that bothers them, and so they don't want them to be in their school, or they don't want them to live in their house or whatever. what about that? I mean, forgetting sports.
Is it a public school?
Yeah.
Well, then, I mean, I guess that person has to
But
deal
even
with
a
it.
private, yes, but Ellie, even a private school. I mean, if you're using that, you can use that. Private schools can use all kinds of things to discriminate against people. They could discriminate against me because I'm a woman. They could discriminate against somebody because they're Black or they're Asian or something. So private schools are different, but it's still in all. And basically, people should be able to be what they want to be. Okay, maybe, okay, going to a public school, forget private school. Again, I don't know, but I just know that there are too many people that are being discriminated against because there's something that other people don't like. That's
well, okay. One, I don't actually think there are that many people that are being, I mean, where are you getting the number? Like, how many people are being discriminated against? I feel like, I feel like right now the trans community is like probably one of the most protected communities in the nation. If you do something against a trans person, it's like social suicide almost.
Okay, but and it's probably, I don't even think there's that many. I really don't think there's that many trans people around. Okay, so, but it is true that lots of trans people they get killed. I mean, I don't know how many, but there are women or men that get killed because they're trans, or they can't do something because they're trans, or even in school, they like they have problems going to the bathroom, into the right bathroom. So
the bathroom thing is interesting because, and in the book, he kind of talks about how you need to travel and be around people outside of the US to get other perspectives. And one thing I actually kind of like about Austria is like a lot of the bathrooms are just like together. So like you don't even have to have the discussion. So like I can actually get behind like some of that stuff.
So yeah, when I went to France years ago, that was in the 80s, and I went into a bathroom in Paris and I said, oh, I don't like this. This is a bathroom for everybody. But anyway, I've changed my mind. But yes, I know in Europe, they're much better about something like that.
Yeah.
And they're getting better in some of the restaurants, I've noticed, or some of the stores even, they're getting better. But anyways, besides all that, there are other things besides trans people that are affected by tyrants and dictators.
Well, everyone's affected by a tyrant.
Right. And I liked how he used a lot of examples of what the Nazis did and how the Nazis started out pretending to be much more moderate than they ended up being. They're pretending.
That was kind of interesting. The first chapter was about he was going through that experiment where trying to test people following orders. And I remember in my Psych 111, so like the intro to Psych class in Michigan, they showed that I think it's the Milgram experiment, where there's someone behind a wall getting asked questions from the proctor, and every time they answer incorrectly, the person next to the proctor is told by the proctor to like give them a little shock. They can't see them. They think they're actually shocking a person, and it's supposed to like reinforce them to answer correctly or something. But like each time the person on the other side of the wall gets the answer wrong, they up the voltage, and the person that's instructed to push the button surprisingly to just keep pushing, like when they're told by an authority figure. And that was interesting. I thought that was a good way to start the book, actually. But you can, I don't know, if you go on YouTube and like search Milgram experiment, it's insane. Like, I can't believe the people keep shocking. And I mean, there's no one there, but it sounds like they're dying and they keep pushing the button.
Well, I think they were just instructed to yell, right?
What's that?
Wasn't the other participant just instructed to like keep like screaming and like begging?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like they're having like, they're dying, like they've, heart attack or whatever. But it is kind of that part's the scary part for me. He talks about just how the Nazis kind of anticipated people following or they got away with a lot more than they thought they could, because the people were like adapting and just trying to kind of survive. And
Right. And they start with something big like the Depression and the Versailles treaty, so that people who are they're angry about that, and so they say how terrible that was, and the people are more inclined to listen to them. And then as time goes on, because they started listening to them, they start believing other things they say, and so that it was easy to take over the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because part of it was the Weimar hyperinflation, where they just started, like, the people that saved money, then they start printing all those dollars, and you hear the stories of them wheelbarrowing money to the baker to, buy bread.
Right.
And then, people like punching the person with the wheelbarrow and like dumping the cash out and just taking the wheelbarrow. But like,
because it's really easy.
But that's why I think a lot of this stuff, a lot of it stems from the money. Like a lot of it always comes back to the money, I feel. And like, as long as we don't have like a gold standard or something that keeps the government figures honest, like I feel like people are the standard of living is just going to get worse. Like that's just my view. And like, if you read Marx Communist Manifesto, like one of the things in there, one of the 10 pillars was like central banking. And that's really communism. They're like controlling the price of the money.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well,
yeah.
I don't have any. Alex, what do you have to say to that?
I mean, sort of. Sorry, no, I guess dovetailing back to the Milgram experiment. I think part of the end of that experiment showed was, I may be getting this wrong, but I think he set out to show like that people wouldn't do it. But I think what he kind of showed was that most people will just blindly follow orders, which is why I think he more or less kind of excused a lot of like the on the ground soldiers for just blindly following, because that's just kind of human nature.
Are you talking about wait, excuse me, are you talking about the experiment itself and the man who ran it? Or are you talking about Schneider?
I'm talking about the experiment. I guess the conclusions from the experiment sort of at least show that humans will just follow
right.
will more or less blindly follow authority figures. So once you're an authority, a lot of people will just follow you, and they'll just do what you say.
Right.
Because I think originally he wanted to conduct the experiment in Germany, and then compare it to see if it was something about the Germans or Austrians that were like, it was like built into them. But then he couldn't, I guess, I don't know if he couldn't get permission, but he didn't do it. And then he did it in the US, and the results were basically the same. So then he's like, okay, I don't think I even need to go do it in Germany. I think it's like, it's a whole human thing.
Right. I agree. Right.
I was just listening to Jake, did you ever finish the podcast Supernova in the East on Hardcore History?
Hardcore History, yeah, I did.
Yeah. So I mean, I've been listening to that, and I mean him talking about how the Japanese fought and like how most of these I guess battles were essentially suicide plans, and he was like, most soldiers wouldn't do this, but the Japanese did. Like, and I'm sort of thinking like, well, would American troops just like run into like certain death?
And it was more than that. They were getting like, the citizens would rather die than like surrender. Like there was I forgot what city, but there's a story where the people were like running off a cliff instead of like giving or like surrendering, I guess. But that, I mean, that's basically yeah, it's just like.
What was the name of this book?
It's a podcast. It's called Hardcore History.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's I like all these different ideas that you're coming up with. And as I said, I see a lot of these things happening here that I would never have thought would have happened before, that I would never have thought about years ago. Because I guess I always believed in the idea that laws are here to follow, So a lot of them are bad laws, but they should be changed, but people have the right to be included. People have the right to have the laws of the land cover them also. And that it's not one particular person who doesn't believe in anything except himself. It isn't up to him to decide the way our country's going to go.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I agree with that. Do you feel like Trump was doing that, I guess?
Yes, I do. And I believe that if he got into office, he would do it twice as bad. It would be worse. He has said what he's going to do. And as we've learned from him, he says things, but you have to take him seriously because he does what he says. The things he says are dumb and stupid and scary, but he does what he says. He does whatever he wants to do, and nobody stops him. So
how do you feel about, I'm just playing like devil's advocate here, but like it seemed like there was somewhat of a calm while he was in office compared to I mean, maybe it's just the spillovers of COVID, but it seemed like there was less to worry. Like internationally, there was less chaos than like the last couple of years. And do you think it's like, do you almost feel like because he was like a little bit on the cusp of like chaos, crazy, like other rulers were afraid to do things? Because like I feel like other people or other countries are less afraid to like do, like, you know, Russia invading Ukraine. We got this you know, Hamas Israel thing. We got, I don't know, any thoughts on that?
I don't think because those particular things didn't happen, but think about this. He obviously likes Putin, and he doesn't like Ukraine for whatever reason. So if he were president now, Russia would have won the war. He wouldn't have helped Ukraine at all. Number two, as far as Israel goes, all he did is antagonize the Palestinians even worse than they're antagonized when he decided that he was going to do whatever Netanyahu said. And he moved the embassy to Jerusalem. Okay, that was nice, but he didn't do anything for the Palestinians. So they had felt there was no reason for them to trust him. And so they would have done the exact same thing as they did now. And I don't think at all that had anything to do with whoever was president, as far as those two go. But and then he supports people like Orbach. He supports people like whoever was in charge of Poland before. He supports Erdogan, who shows that he can be a dictator. That he supports the men that do these things. They're men in this case, Allie. Anyways, he supports people who do this, and so that's something that he would like to do himself.
I mean, is that Trump or is that our country? Because I feel like going back to Jack, do you remember what episode the Dictator's Handbook was?
I do not, but I can look it up.
What? Oh, were you thinking about the chapter?
No, one of our earlier books. So I mean, is he supporting, like, I think, I don't know, like maybe it's somewhat of conflation that you're saying like he's supporting, you know, person X, but it's probably just that, I mean, at least part of it, it's easier to work with people it's just like internationally, it's much easier to work with people that are dictators because you can buy them.
True.
So like, is he like, does he actually support these people, or is it just easy to control them? And I think it's probably, with Turkey, I think it's definitely, they actually explicitly talk, the reason I'm bringing this up is he explicitly talks about Turkey in this book. I think it was episode 10 or 11 that we
12,
did. It's probably 12.
Yeah, 12, yep.
Where it was just talking about how easy it is to essentially get what you want from dictatorial countries because it takes way less money to buy them. So I guess what I'm saying is, like, do you think Trump actually identifies with these people, or is it that he can just use them to get what he wants? I guess, for America on a, global stage.
I think that he's willing to do what they want. He is willing to, well, number one, he likes how they approach their government. He likes how everybody listens to them, but he can be bought. And so if they say, okay, well, if you agree with us, then we'll give you money for your hotel or whatever, your son-in-law have money for his hotel, that's good, but then that's good for him, but it's not good for the country. He doesn't do things that are good for the country. He does things that are good for Donald Trump.
I guess that implies, Sharon, do you think other politicians do things that are good for the country and not good for themselves?
I think in some sense they do think, a lot of sense they're doing it for themselves because they want to stay in power, but they don't do it so that only some of the country is impacted by it, or they don't do it by making fun or making other people be the devil. They're concerned, at least outwardly, in a lot of the laws that they passed are to help the people of the country. What has Trump ever done to help the people of the country?
I know he gave a real lot of money, or he got a real lot of funding for HBCUs. That's really the only thing I know.
He did what? What did he do?
I think he got a lot of funding for HBCUs.
What's HBCUs?
HBCU, historically Black colleges and universities.
Oh, okay, yeah, he did that, right? Okay, then he, of course, gave the big tax break to all the millionaires, including himself.
I guess, well, by definition, most tax breaks go to wealthier people, but
right, but he made it even a bigger tax break than they normally had. So my point is, what did he do, and what happened when we had COVID? What did he do for people when we had COVID? The one thing he did is he put the money aside so that a vaccine could be presented or whatever. But what did he do? He made fun of people for wearing masks. He told people, don't worry about leaving a distance. He was not a leader. He's not a leader for everybody. He's a leader for some people. And part of and going along with what you said about how he likes these people because they do something for him, it's only for him. They don't do things for these. Orbach doesn't care about the United States, which he shouldn't, but he certainly is not giving things to Trump that Trump can help our country with. It helps Trump.
I don't know who Orbach is, so I can't really comment.
No, Orlak. He's Orbach. He's from Hungary.
Oh, okay. I don't know enough about that to really comment, so I'll just take your word for it.
But anyway, he's taken over Hungary, and he's made it like a dictatorship.
So. Well, Sharon, how did you feel about like the U.S. military being spread out over the world? Do you think we should not be meddling in so many countries' affairs? Do you think we should kind of pull back and kind of just reinforce our country and just focus on ourselves? How do you feel about that?
Well, we did that before World War II. How did that work out?
Interesting. So you think we should be the world's, do you think the U.S. really should be the world's police?
Well, first of all, there's lots of things, honestly, that the U.S. have done when they've been the world's police that was not good for the country they were policing. Mm-hmm. When we used to send in the CIA and try to overtake elected governments, that was no good. Or making a person that is in charge of a country listen to what we say, that's not good. So so being a policeman all over the world is not good, but there's just ways that we have. There's so many problems throughout the world that some way or other, something has to happen, but it's true. We can't go to Africa and the countries that are having problems there settle all the things there. All we can do is just, I'm not sure what we can do, but it is true. We cannot be the policeman for everybody, because we don't even have enough people, and they're not necessarily interested in us coming in and taking care of their country.
Right. Yeah.
So what do you think?
I mean, I guess one thing that comes, well, when you brought up World War II, and you like after World War II, the US probably could have just taken over the world. Like, we were the only ones with like nukes, like kind of do what we say, or like we could have just taken them over, and we didn't. We helped rebuild like Germany and Japan.
Right.
So that, like, I guess from that perspective, it seems like we're kind of unusual that we would kind of help rebuild those places instead of just take them over. But yeah, I mean, in terms of like, and I thought we were like the world's police, because I mean, we read I'm blanking on the Zihan book about how when we weren't oil like independent, like when we weren't energy independent, it was important for us to be the policeman, because then we could patrol the trade routes and make sure we had access to oil. But now that we are energy independent, we don't really need, like, the world needs us much more than we need them now. Like it.
But they're starting to feel like they need Russia and China. The world they don't need us as much. And Russia and China are trying to use their influence around the world. China was doing it a lot in Africa. I just read an article that Russia is feeling its power, and that they're trying to get into, well, they've been in the Middle East, and they're down in South America. And so they're trying to become in charge of everything. And I'm not sure, I'm not sure what the United States can do to counteract them, but we don't want to let them take over.
I will say I drove on some of those Chinese funded roads in Montenegro and Serbia.
And they were nice, huh?
They were incomplete, but they were very nice, I thought, for the ones I drove on. But like, there was like, we were going out of the Montenegro capital, and I'm like, wow, this is great. Like, this highway is great. And then all of a sudden it just stopped, and we had to go up and over a mountain, and hadn't seen a gas station in 2 hours, and was very worried about running out of gas. But this is what they do. They like lend their resources, build infrastructure. A lot of times they're making loans to these countries with the thought they won't be able to pay them back. And then they say like, nah, you don't need to pay us back, but we're gonna like control a little bit of your ports or your country. And that's how they slowly infiltrate some of these countries.
Right. So, Alex, what do you think?
I think Russia's influence, I think, is probably somewhat, I don't know. I don't like really, I think what Jack just was talking about, China, is true. I think Chinese influence is a lot more worrisome than Russian influence. I think Russian influence is much more, they try to do it, I think, much more in your face, kind of, at least with Putin, from what I've seen. But like, on the same note, I don't really read or study a whole lot of this. I'm not really worried. At the end of the day, people, I mean, sort of what Jack was saying, going back to dollars, at the end of the day, everyone in the world wants dollars. Everyone in the world wants to be friendly with America. No one really wants yuan. No one really wants, I don't even know what Russian dollar, what are rubles? Rubles? Rubles, yeah. People don't really want rubles. Everyone trusts the dollar. People want to be friendly with America. That's just kind of currently the world that we live in, I think.
And you don't think that would be affected if we had Donald Trump again as president, being a dictator?
Well, I guess I don't think Donald Trump would be a dictator. So
why is that?
Well, I don't. I think the most, sort of like what this book, chapter 2, defend institutions. I think the most important thing we have is institutions, and I think you would really have to erode away a lot of our institutions for someone to become a dictator. I don't think I just don't think it will happen, I guess.
Okay.
At
Even
some
though he
point,
tried already.
see, I don't think he tried to be a dictator. I mean, I don't like Trump. Like, to me, it seems like, Sharon, it seems like your biggest problem with him is his rhetoric. It seems like you just don't
No,
like how he acts.
I don't think, I think that what his rhetoric shows that this is what he's going to do. That's what he, even before when he was president, he'd say something, would say, oh, he's not going to do it. And then he did it. So yes, I do think if he says he's going to be a dictator, I believe he is. And he
Did
said
he
he's going to
say he was going to be a dictator?
Yeah, he said he was going to be a dictator for one day. Well, who's a dictator for one day?
When did he say
He
that?
said that.
He said that a couple months ago, Al.
In what context?
He was talking to one of his friends on Fox News, I think it was Sean Hannity, and Sean was trying to show the world that he's not going to, that Trump is not going to be a dictator. So he said something like, well, you're not going to be a dictator, are you? And Trump says, I'll be a dictator for one day and won't be a dictator anymore. That's what he said. And so you have to believe him when he says these things. I mean, in the way that he tries to as I said, the way he demonizes people, everything's a problem because of immigrants or because people don't think the way he does, or they're too left wing for him, or they're women, or they're whatever, or they're African American. I mean, he doesn't show any kind of interest, any kind of empathy, any kind of sympathy for anybody who doesn't believe in him. And so that's how dictators end up being dictators. People just keep on believing them. It doesn't matter whether it's true or not. It's true that he lost the election. It doesn't matter that he says he didn't. It's true. It was proven by the courts. As Al said, that the courts were we still had, the courts were still going by the laws.
Yeah, we still have courts.
Yeah, we still have courts, right? But his point is, like, now he's fighting all these different cases that he has. And he's saying that, he'd get rid of all these people that first of all, he pardoned himself, but he'd get rid of all these people in the Justice Department. He would try to put judges on the bench that would go along with him. He'd get rid of all the civil servants in Washington that run the offices. And he would just put in people his people. Look at what happened when he put in somebody in the post office. He changed the head of the post office, and then all of a sudden the post office makes all these decisions right before the election in 2020 so people had more trouble mailing their stuff. Well, that's just a nothing thing, the post office. But here he put in somebody that put in to change the laws that we had been following with the post office, or the rules that we've been following in the post office. So that's just a little example.
Okay, so I'm guessing you're saying that he put that person in so people couldn't do mail-in voting?
Right.
Is that okay?
Make it harder for them. Exactly. So how is that being interested in the country, letting the people have their say in something?
Sure. I guess what I'm saying is, or I guess where I'm at is, like, do you think that other politicians don't do those types of things?
Not like him.
I think they're probably just better at it.
Wait. What other politician has lost an election until him, and lost an election, said that he didn't lose?
Didn't Hillary say that?
No, Hillary did not say that. No,
I think Hillary did say that.
No, Hillary did not say that. That's what people say Hillary said, but she didn't say that.
What did she say then?
I don't remember what she said, but the next day, the day after she lost,
she conceded, right? She did concede the next day.
Okay. Has he conceded yet?
No, I disagree with what he's doing. I think he's lost.
But anyways, I'm just saying. So this is a man that wants to tell everybody, the people who support him, they can have he'll give them things. People that don't support him, he's going to get rid of them. He's going to make sure that they don't have any kind of power at all. He's going to close down, he's trying to close down newspapers. He's trying to stop the media from doing anything that he doesn't like. And he's been doing that. He tried to do that. He couldn't do it.
He tried to stop the media.
Yes, he wanted to stop. He's tried to tell people on different channels that they should be arrested or they should be sued or whatever.
Okay, and Sharon, why did that not work?
Sweetie, that's because right now we still have laws, but a lot of those laws are not really laws. They're just things that we have done. It's not
No,
that.
well, that didn't work because that's one of the tenets of our Constitution. Like, that's one of our institutions. Like, he can't just, how hard is it to change the Constitution? It's pretty hard, right?
No.
You need to what do you mean no?
It's not. Look at what happened with Roe versus Wade. That wasn't that hard to change it.
Roe versus Wade was not in the Constitution. That was a law.
Okay, so that
To make amendment to the Constitution, to take out the First Amendment, freedom of speech, what would you have to do? You need like a supermajority of states, right?
Right, but don't forget that if he becomes in control, there's a lot of people that would go along with what he says. So if he said, well, I'm saying this is protection of speech, or this is freedom of speech, but they can't say this, or they can only say what I say, there are lots of people that go along with it. And so as we see, lots of the things that we thought were protecting us have not been protecting us.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because in the On Tyranny book, they were, I think, interviewing some of the German Jews. I'm like, oh no, like this could never happen. Like we have safeguards in place and we have laws in place, and same thing with, I think they brought up Czechoslovakia, like in that last election, like when some people were saying like this could be the last like election because we're like voting in like communists kind of, and you don't know it's the last one until it is.
Exactly. That's why you have to protect yourself before it happens.
Yeah. And
that's why he wrote this book.
Yeah. But I think I mean, what am I thinking of? But like the way I view, like there's people that are like advantaged and disadvantaged from every sort of program in some way. Like if money's not going to someone and it's going to someone else, well, on a relative basis, like someone's getting docked. And like, I mean, I think of like this green movement with like this environmentally friendly stuff. And, you know, a lot of the talk is that we're going to be going to these like digital currencies where the government's going to be controlling the money. And then, you know, then they'll restrict like what your money can go towards. And you'll be pegged with not just like a credit score, but like a social score. So like, really? Yeah. That's
China.
what. So
Canada did that a little bit too.
So that's what I mean, and that has nothing to do with Trump, or that has nothing. That's like kind of, I don't even know if the central bank is in charge. I don't know who really orchestrates that, but there's so much going on that could hurt someone and help someone else, I guess. I don't know.
Right. But we don't want a president who's making it obvious that only people who he likes, people who support him, get the things that they want, and everybody else, they don't get anything, or they get their rights taken away.
But I guess that's kind of my point. Is it better to be obvious and evil, or like silent and evil? Because like the inflation stuff, I consider that evil, but it's more like silent. Like people don't even know it's happening, and that's like coming, and that's like like inflation. That's basically stealing money from you every year. And because like, I mean, Ellen and I barely go out to eat anymore. It costs like $50 if we want to go out to eat. Like we've just been on, like, I used to go out to eat like every single meal.
And now somebody has to cook.
Yeah, me.
Well, anyways, that's my personal opinion about Trump. And my feelings about what he's trying to lead us to in this government. And as I say all the time, and I just want to say this anyway, listen to this. As we know, I don't express myself as well as the All Wilds do. So I hope you understand where I'm coming from, even though I am not saying it as well as I should.
I think you said it fine.
Yeah, I feel like part of my
opinion.
problem is like I honestly like when you guys were talking, I actually like looked up democracy. Like I feel like I don't like some of these words, like if you were asking me what it actually means, and we've talked about this a lot in some of our books, like the definitions are so important when you're talking.
Right.
But you don't really know what the definition is.
Exactly. Because like I just looked up democracy and it kind of depends on like I don't really know, like, because in some ways it's used as like just like a straight majority, in which case, well, Hillary would have won, correct?
Right.
Over Trump. So it's
Right.
not, so do we
It's a
really
republic.
live in a democracy per se? I don't know if
We live in a
that's the
democratic
right-
republic.
Democratic Republic. Okay, there we go.
Okay, that's true. That is true.
So yeah, it's just, but yeah, that's,
The-
but you know, I thought the book, I mean, I read it in like a sitting, so that was
Yeah.
kind of nice. I liked that it was short and sweet. Made me think about some stuff. And
I mean, I think the problem when you were talking about definitions is that people will sit there and talk to each other and use the same word, but have it defined vastly different.
Right.
And then that's when you really you start having problems.
That's true. That is true. I agree with that.
Which is why it's always good when you're using certain words. It's always good to define things before.
It's always good to have the dictionary nearby so that you can point to the other person and say, this is what it really means.
Or at least just like, I mean, just so you're both using the word in the same way. Like,
right.
Yeah, even if it's wrong, at least if you're
both consistent, yeah, if you're both consistent, it's okay.
Because then you can actually like understand what the other person's saying.
That is true. That is true. So anything else we want to discuss? This has been a very interesting discussion, but anyways, this has been a very interesting discussion.
It has been. Yeah, you want to take us out?
And Callie, you have anything else you want to say?
I guess just from, I'm reading the 20 chapters, and I would say the most important thing is, at least from an American standpoint, I would say chapter 2, defend institutions. I think our institutions were put in place to, I guess, literally protect against, Sharon, what you were worried about. I think they've done a pretty good job, and I think it's important to protect them. I guess those are my last thoughts on the book.
I agree with you. And another one that was important, although I'm looking at the book, but I don't know what chapter is the listening to the truth, not listening to things that are not true, have a truth-based conversation. What about you?
I actually pegged down, I pegged down the page. And of course, we must be concerned with what is true and what is false, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. So, anyways. Okay.
Well, with that, please reach out to us at brothersonbooks@gmail.com for any book recommendations, or if you'd like to be a guest host for a particular book you have in mind. A great review or rating on whichever platform you're listening to this would be greatly appreciated. If you can think of any friend, family member, or coworker that might like this episode, please pass it along. For the original episodes, the OGs, please visit brothersonbooks.com. And for all the matcha lovers out there, see the link below for 20% off all your matcha needs at Encha Matcha. And I'm Jack Alwell. With me, as always, is Alex Alwell and Sharon Applebaum. As always, it's been a pleasure.
Yes, I've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah. Until next time.
It's been good, yeah.